My name is Veronica, and I am the same age I was when I left home years ago, still thinking family meant showing up when it mattered. I came home for Christmas expecting noise. I expected the porch lights blinding white against the snow, my mom's fake wreath half falling off the door, my dad's truck crooked in the driveway, my brother's music leaking through the walls. I expected chaos, complaints, someone asking why I was late, even though I told them my arrival time weeks ago. Instead, the house sat dark and still, like it had been holding its breath all day. The driveway was empty except for one car. Grandpa's old Buick, dusted with snow, parked exactly where it always was. No other tire marks, no footprints, just quiet. I stood there for a second with my duffel bag cutting into my shoulder, the cold burning my face, telling myself maybe they ran to the store. Maybe they went to get groceries last minute. Maybe they were inside arguing about where to put the tree like every other year. I knocked once, then again, then finally pushed the door open. The air inside smelled wrong. Not like food or pine or cinnamon. It smelled like coffee that had been sitting too long and dust that hadn't been disturbed in days. No Christmas lights, no tree, no stockings, no sound. Grandpa was sitting in his chair in the living room, the same one he'd had since I was a kid. Hands folded, back straight, eyes on the blank television screen like he'd been watching something invisible. He looked up when he heard me and gave a small nod. Not surprised, not relieved, just acknowledging that I was real. I dropped my bag and asked where everyone was. He didn't answer right away. He just lifted his chin slightly toward my coat pocket. I pulled out my phone. There was one text from my dad. Just one. No apology, no explanation. We took a trip. Use the money you saved for us. Didn't want to ruin your holiday. We'll be back after New Year's. Hope Grandpa's doing okay. That was it. They knew I was coming. I told them in November. I sent the dates. I even offered to buy the ham this year because money had been tight, and I didn't want them stressed. My mom told me not to worry, said my presence was enough. I should have known that was her way of smoothing something over before disappearing. They didn't tell Grandpa. No call, no note, nothing. They packed up, took the money I'd been saving all year to help fix the pipes and replace the broken windows in his room, and left him alone in a cold house like he was an afterthought, like he was furniture. I didn't say anything. I just sat down on the floor beside his chair the way I used to when I was a kid. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Outside, snow started falling again, slow and steady, like the world had decided to soften the blow. Grandpa finally looked at me and said it quietly, calmly, like he was commenting on the weather. They'll pay it back sooner than they think. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't need to. The next morning, I woke to the sound of something scraping across the floor. It wasn't loud, it wasn't frantic, it was steady, deliberate, like someone who had already decided what needed to be done and was simply doing it. I patted down the hallway in my socks and found Grandpa in the master bedroom, sleeves rolled up, sliding a heavy plastic storage bin toward the closet. He had already made the bed, stripped it bare, and stacked folded clothes in neat piles on the dresser. A cup of coffee sat nearby, long gone cold. They left me, he said, not looking at me. It wasn't an accusation. It wasn't even sadness. It was a fact. So I'm leaving them. He opened the closet door like it was a storage unit, not a bedroom. Ski jackets still tagged from their trip. Dresses my mom only wore when she wanted to look generous. My dad's golf polos, lined up by color. Grandpa picked one up, folded it carefully, and placed it in the bin without hesitation. I stood in the doorway for a moment, not sure what to say. Then I stepped in and started helping. My mom's fake designer bags came down from the shelf and went straight into zippered covers without me checking the pockets. My brother's shoes went into a box. When I taped it shut, I wrote, "Donate," in thick black marker. Grandpa glanced at it and smirked. By noon, half the room was packed. We moved quietly, not rushed, not angry. It felt strange how peaceful it was, like the house itself had been waiting for this to happen. I made us sandwiches, and we ate them on the living room floor, backs against the couch. Boxes stacked around us like furniture we hadn't decided where to put yet. Grandpa stared at the fireplace, the one they never bothered to light anymore. After lunch, he reached under the coffee table and pulled out a folder I'd never seen before. He handed it to me without ceremony. Inside was the original deed to the house. His name, only his name, mortgage paid off years ago. No co-signers, no shared ownership, no confusion. It's not their house, he said simply. Never was. I let them live here. That's over now. The rest of the day unfolded quietly, methodically. Grandpa wrote a list and crossed things off one by one. Furniture went up on Facebook Marketplace. Electronics were sold to neighbors. Jewelry was appraised and driven 2 towns over to a dealer. The necklace my mom wore every Sunday disappeared into a small velvet pouch and left the house without a goodbye. The sound system my dad bragged about at barbecues got boxed up and driven away by a man named Rick in a pickup truck. On the 28th, Grandpa went into town and shut down the joint account, the same one I'd been depositing money into for repairs. He transferred the remaining balance into his personal account, closed the rest, and came home smiling, like someone who'd finally put down a heavy bag. No more automatic payments, he said, no more safety net. He handed me one of the old credit cards and told me to buy whatever we needed for the week. I only bought groceries and a space heater for his room. Everything else felt unnecessary. Those days didn't feel like punishment. They felt like breathing after holding your breath for years. We ate simple meals, played cards at night, watched old documentaries on his laptop. I hadn't spent that much uninterrupted time with him since I was 9. I'd forgotten how sharp he was, how funny in his quiet way. He never badmouthed my parents. He didn't need to. On the morning of New Year's Eve, while I was out getting milk, my phone lit up with missed calls. My brother, then my mom, then my dad. No voicemails, just the calls. When I showed Grandpa, he nodded once. "They'll get loud once they realize the accounts are dry," he said. I believed him. They didn't call because they missed us. They called because something stopped working. By the time I got back from the store that morning, the missed calls had doubled. Still no voicemails, just numbers stacking up like pressure. Grandpa was already back in the living room, legal pad on his knee, radio humming low with some old jazz station. He crossed another item off his list and didn't look up when I set the milk down. "They'll circle the problem before they name it," he said. "Always do." New Year's Eve arrived gray and heavy, the kind of day where the sky sits low like it's holding something back. Snow started again around noon, soft at first, then thicker, blurring the edges of everything outside. The town slowed down. Roads emptied. It felt like the world had decided to pause right along with us. Inside, we kept working. We finished boxing the hallway closet, coats and boots that hadn't been worn in years. The treadmill my mom swore she'd start using after the holidays got unplugged and leaned against the wall. My brother's game room, the one he insisted be his office even though he never worked from home, was stripped down to bare shelves. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. The silence felt cooperative, not tense. That afternoon, my phone finally rang with a voicemail that said what all the others had been dancing around. "We can't check out," my mom said, her voice tight and rushed. The card declined. Then the backup card declined too. "Your father is freaking out. The flight isn't booked. Call us as soon as you get this." I played it once, then showed it to Grandpa. He listened, nodded, and went back to crossing things off his list. "They've never had to sit with the consequences before," he said. "Someone always fixed it." The snow was falling harder now. By evening, the streetlights outside glowed soft and fuzzy, like we were living inside a snow globe. We ate dinner early, leftover soup and crackers, and Grandpa turned the radio up a little louder. Jazz from the 60s filled the house, slow and unbothered. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Then again. 15 missed calls in less than 10 minutes. Texts started coming through in blocks, each one more frantic than the last. "Hi, sweetheart. We're having a little situation here. Could really use your help. Dude, Grandpa shut down the account. Are you serious? Call me. What the hell is going on? You two can't just cut us off like this. We'll deal with this when we get back." That last one was my dad. I tilted the screen toward Grandpa. He squinted at it, then looked back at the fire. "They're not even pretending anymore," he said. "Not even pretending they care about anything but the money." We didn't count down to midnight. We didn't toast. We just sat there listening to the wind scrape against the windows and the fire crackle low. When midnight passed, nothing changed. The house stayed warm. The snow kept falling. The world didn't end. The next morning, I made pancakes. Flat ones, because we were low on baking powder. We ate them off paper towels, standing at the counter. Grandpa had the radio on again. Same station, same calm. My phone had 6 new voicemails. One of them finally dropped the act completely. "Veronica," my mom said, breathless, "we're stuck. We can't book the return flight. The resort won't let us stay another night without payment. Please call us." They were stranded. No money, no backup, no quiet account to dip into without asking. The safety net they assumed would always be there was gone, and for the first time they were sitting in the mess they'd created. Grandpa spent the rest of the day walking through the house, checking drawers, making notes. He didn't look smug. He didn't look happy. He looked finished, like a man who had waited a very long time and finally stopped waiting. That night, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Same coat, same dark circles under my eyes, hands dusty from the attic, but I didn't feel exhausted. I felt steady, like something had finally lined up inside me. On January 2nd, the text came in before noon. "We're coming home. You need to explain this. Have Grandpa ready to talk." I turned my phone off and went to stand by the window. Grandpa joined me with a mug of tea, his hand steady. "They'll come back loud," he said. "They always do." Around 8 that night, headlights curved into the driveway. They were back. They sat in the car longer than necessary, headlights still on, engine idling like they were rehearsing what to say. I watched from the front window as doors finally opened, and they stepped out into the cold, luggage bumping behind them, confidence already fraying at the edges. The porch light didn't come on when they approached. Grandpa had disconnected it days ago. "Small things," he said, "teach big lessons." The first rattle at the doorknob was gentle, then another, harder. My dad cleared his throat and tried casual. "Dad, open up, it's us." Grandpa didn't look up from his crossword. He circled a word with the pencil, slow and careful, like time belonged to him now. The doorknob twisted again. My brother tried the side door, then the garage keypad, tapping numbers he'd memorized years ago. Nothing worked. Every code had been changed, every lock replaced. We didn't announce it. We didn't need to. The doorbell rang, loud and impatient. Grandpa stood, walked to the record player, and dropped the needle. Old jazz drifted into the room, unhurried, like smoke. He sat back down and folded his arms. The bell rang again, longer this time, then fists. My brother's voice cut through the glass. "You changed the locks. Are you serious?" I opened the door a few inches. Cold rushed in with them. My mom tried a smile that used to fix everything. My dad's jaw was tight, eyes already searching past me for control he no longer had. "We need to come in," he said. "Enough of this." "It's not a game," my brother added, stepping forward. "No," I said, "it's not." My mom softened her voice, the way she always did when she wanted something without asking for it. "Sweetheart, please. We've been traveling all day. Let's just talk." "He's not taking sedatives anymore," I said, meeting her eyes. They froze. My dad started to raise his voice, but I closed the door, locked it, and walked back into the living room. Grandpa hadn't moved. The music kept playing. We listened to it together while they argued on the porch, voices rising and falling, trying old tricks, then new ones. Around 11, the engine started again. Headlights swept across the snow and disappeared. The next morning, the neighbor knocked. Mrs. Dale held a spare key in her mittened hand, confused. "Your brother came by early," she said. "Told me Grandpa asked him to pick this up." She didn't believe him. Grandpa smiled when I told him. "They're used to doors opening," he said. "This is the first time they're realizing they don't have the keys." Later, I found my brother's phone tucked behind a flower pot near the porch. Probably dropped during the chaos. I didn't plan to snoop, but the screen was still lit, banking app open. Transfers jumped out at me. Small amounts, frequent, routed into a crypto wallet. Months of it. I showed Grandpa. He barely reacted. "They never planned to stay," he said. "They were always going to leave." They came back mid-morning, louder, sharper, no smiles left. My dad barked that we were locking them out of their own lives. My mom accused Grandpa of confusion, of needing rest, then turned on me, said I was feeding it. Grandpa laughed, quiet and tired. "I was confused," he said. "For years, letting you stay, pretending you weren't bleeding me dry. I'm done pretending." He handed my dad a yellow envelope. 30 days, typed notice, lawyered, clean, his house. Always had been. They stared at it like it might dissolve if they didn't read it. 2 hours later, a sheriff's deputy knocked for a wellness check. Someone had called it in. The deputy asked Grandpa questions, watched him move, listened to him joke, checked the title and statements. He apologized and left. The call shook something loose anyway. Grandpa looked older for a moment. I made soup. We sat in silence until it passed. That night they returned once more, quieter, letting themselves in with the spare key hidden in the fake rock. I hadn't thought of it. My mom went straight to the medicine cabinet. I watched her find the sedatives she used to keep Grandpa foggy and compliant. She froze when she saw me. "We just want to help him," she whispered. I took the bottle from her hand and poured it down the sink. "No more of that," I said. She snapped that we were still family. "Then act like it," I replied. The next morning, we helped them pack. No yelling, no speeches, just boxes and tape and the sound of coats being folded. My brother wouldn't look at me. My dad said nothing. My mom tried once, a soft plea that used my childhood nickname. I didn't flinch. They left before lunch. Grandpa watched from his chair, still as stone. They were my kids, he said. I raised them wrong. I shook my head and sat beside him. You raised me right. After they left, the house didn't feel empty. That surprised me. I expected the silence to echo, to feel like loss, like something torn out and never replaced. Instead, it felt clean, like a window had finally been opened after years of stale air. Grandpa stayed in his chair for a long time that afternoon, staring out at the road like he was waiting for a sound that never came. I busied myself in the kitchen, wiping counters that didn't need wiping, checking the thermostat twice, doing anything that let the moment settle without forcing it. That night, we ate soup and bread at the table, not talking much. The jazz station played softly in the background. When I finally asked if he was okay, he nodded once and said, I am now. Not relieved, not happy, just steady. The days that followed were slow and deliberate. Grandpa called the lawyer again and made sure everything was locked down cleanly. Utilities moved to his name alone. Access codes changed again, just in case. The storage unit my brother had been using showed up as unpaid. When he went to retrieve his things, he found the lock replaced. Word traveled fast in a town like this, not because Grandpa told anyone, but because people noticed. When asked, he told the truth plainly. They left me alone at Christmas. They took money that wasn't theirs. I asked them to leave. That was all. People believed him. That part mattered more than anything else. There was no rally for my parents, no rescue effort, no chorus of concern about Grandpa's mental state. The neighbor brought over a casserole. Someone from church dropped off firewood. Mrs. Dale checked in every other morning with a wave and a thumbs up. The house didn't feel abandoned. It felt supported. My parents tried a few more times, texts carefully worded like apologies without responsibility. We just want to talk. Can we start fresh? We miss how things used to be. Grandpa read them once, handed the phone back, and went back to his paper. No replies, no explanations. Silence did the work. I decided to stay. The city could wait. My job was flexible. The house needed repairs, and Grandpa needed someone who wasn't going to leave when things got inconvenient. I moved my things into the old sewing room upstairs and made it mine. We cleaned out the fridge, donated what my mom left behind, fixed a drafty window together. He taught me how to patch drywall. I taught him how to use the new thermostat. We fell into a rhythm that felt older than the conflict that led us here. One morning, while sorting through old photos, Grandpa handed me one of us at a 4th of July parade. Me on his shoulders, fireworks frozen mid-burst behind us. You always came back, he said. I taped it to the fridge. Weeks passed, the snow melted, the house warmed. The silence stayed kind. I got one last message from my mom. We're staying with friends. Just need time. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, out of clarity. If time was all they needed, they could take it without pulling us back into the same cycle. One evening, Grandpa looked up from his plate and said, They'll never understand how good it feels to not need them anymore. He wasn't angry, he was free. And so was I. Family, I learned, isn't who shows up when it's convenient, or who takes when they think they can. Family is who stays when the house is cold and quiet and still worth loving. The house breathed again. So did we.